Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to be presenting this webinar today of Unraveling Year-End Reporting, a comprehensive guide for employers to W-2 and 1099 forms. My name is Hannah Walk. I'm the product manager here at Greenshades for tax and compliance. I've been working at Greenshades since earlier this year, but I've been working in compliance for more than 8 years at this point. Worked in a variety of compliance products, including property tax, affordable housing, data privacy, corporate ethics, and now I'm excited to be joining Greenshades as the tax and compliance product manager for payroll tax. And I'm also really excited today to be presenting with my friend, Alicia.
Hi, I'm Alicia Rocks, and I have been at Greenshades for almost 11 years. I started here in December of 2012. And you can see from the list there, I've worked in a lot of different departments here at Greenshades, but my heart is definitely in tax and compliance. So Hannah and I get along great for these presentations. We have a lot to share.
So we'll walk through our agenda for today, and then we'll start jumping into the content. Today's agenda is really focused on what employers need to know for getting their paperwork out to employees. We're going to be talking about what you should be doing now through December in order to get started and get ready to do your year-end reporting. Then we'll go into some of the details of W-2 forms, 1099s, and everyone's favorite, the 1095-C. I'll also talk a little bit about software options and different tools that you can use to help make this process easier. And finally, wrap up with a little bit more discussion about why this is so important and what the importance of accuracy is in this process.
But we can't get started without that legal disclaimer. So please keep in mind as you listen to this webinar today that none of this is intended to be legal advice. We do partner with My HR Counsel should you have any questions at the end of this webinar that you would like some legal counsel on. But the real purpose of today's presentation is to provide you kind of a high-level overview of what we here at Greenshades can help you with in regards to the year-end forms process, and I'll give you a little compliance knowledge in the process.
So we're going to jump into our first section, which is things you should be doing before you get started. So it's currently October 18th, which means we're a little more than 2.5 months out from that January filing period. So before you get started on your year-end forms, there's a couple really important things to do, starting with verifying your data. It's so much easier to make your edits in your source of truth. So you want to make sure that this is a great time to make sure you have the right addresses, the right contact information for all of your employees. You also want to make sure that you're checking for any necessary compliance updates and to make sure that your accounting package is updated with all these things. So for instance, the Social Security wage base is estimated to increase, the healthcare FSA contribution limit, the 401k contribution limit, as well as the 2024 FICA projection is set to be about $7,000 higher next year than it was this year. So important to get all of those updates into your accounting package so that you're ready for year end.
Another thing you want to double check is imputed income. So the purpose of imputed income is really to track the things that would come into an individual that would be considered income that may not actually be a part of their direct pay. So this would be things like group term life insurance. Maybe your company offers educational assistance that your employees take advantage of. You definitely want to make sure that you have those things all entered into your system so that when you get ready to upload your 1099 info, all of that is already taken care of and makes edits easier for you.
Yep. Like I was talking about a little bit earlier, right now is a great time to make sure you verify your employee information. As you're getting into your open enrollment season, perhaps, this is also a great time to ask your employees to review their mailing address, their personal contact information, emergency contacts, dependents. Want to make sure that any new dependents that have entered our employees' families are going to be able to be claimed as dependents on their taxes, as well as making sure that you have all the beneficiary information for their benefits, as well as their distribution preferences for year-end forms. So there is an obligation as an employer to provide copies of your forms to your employees, but you have a variety of options in how you can do this. You can either mail them the traditional way, or you can give your employees options by giving them electronic access, direct access through common tools like TurboTax and H&R Block, and making sure that you do all this verification around addresses, contact, and distribution preferences can help cut down on your costs for distribution and ensure that employees are receiving this information in a timely manner on the first try.
All right, so let's start by talking about some W-2 forms. So I think most of us are pretty familiar with the standard W-2 form. It reports your employee's income. It also details out a lot of the state, local, and federal details that come from paychecks throughout the year into one form. And then it also lists out the different contributions to things like benefits, such as retirement and health insurance. It's important for those W-2 forms to get distributed to your employees in a timely manner. It's important for them to be able to file their own taxes by the deadline of April 15th. So in order for them to do that, they need all of their documentation postmarked and mailed to them by January 31st to ensure enough time to do their own taxes.
And there's also various types of W-2s. So there's the standard W-2, which people resident in the 50 United States are going to be familiar with. But there's also some additional types of W-2s we want to talk about, one of which is the W-2G. This is a specific form that gambling institutions are required to give to their players, their winners, every year, so that those winners are able to report their winnings as part of their income and accurately ensure that tax has been deducted from those winnings. Additionally, if you have employees or are resident in federal territories like Guam and Puerto Rico, there are specialized versions of the W-2 that cover the local language as well as other programs that are specific to these areas.
So you might be asking, what information are you going to need? Well, there's a couple different parts to a W-2. The first part is going to be the employer information. That's going to be your company's name and EIN, identification number, so that your employees know if they get multiple W-2s, which one comes from your company and which might come from another. That should also include the name, address, and zip code of the business, as well as any state tax ID numbers should also be on the form. For employee info, we have a pretty standard name, address, social security number, any amounts paid to that employee in the appropriate boxes. And then we also should be tracking the total wages and taxes taken out of those wages in the appropriate boxes as well.
So there's a couple steps you want to follow when you go to file your W-2s. The first is, especially, we're going to use the example of filing with Greenshades, of course. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to import your data into the year-end forms tool. There's a variety of ways you can do this, including the sync portal, a data connector, generic SQL integration, or some accounting packages even offer direct integration with Greenshades. You can also use a template in Microsoft Excel to manually create that data and then import the template. The next thing you're going to want to do is make sure that your company information is set up. This includes things like your bank account information in order to make payments, as well as options that you're going to set up at the company level, like whether or not you want to archive. We are able to store copies of the forms for a 7-year period in case there's any kind of IRS inquiry and you need to provide that information. The next thing you're going to want to do, and this is something we recommend everyone do early on in their year-end form creation process, is to do employee identity verification. This is a service that you can utilize with the Social Security Administration that allows you to verify that the name and Social Security number that you have for your employees match with each other, and make sure that you're not setting yourself up to have a filing failure. If you are having issues, you do get any of those errors back on the identity verification, or if we detect any other issues in your forms, the next thing you're going to want to do before you go any further is to resolve those errors. That might be incorrect totals or mismatches between names and Social Security numbers, or even just missing information. Beyond that, you'll also want to separately verify your totals. A lot of people like to match their totals on their W-2s across to their 940 and 941 to ensure that they've reported the same numbers consistently all year. The last couple things you're going to want to do are making sure that you have your options set up for your employees, whether you'd like to distribute those forms electronically through Green Employee, or if you'd like to make those forms available for employees who use TurboTax to file their taxes every year. And then finally, if you do want to have those forms mailed out, making sure that you're setting up those printing and mailing options in a timely manner so that you can get the best price. And then additionally, if you have state or local forms, you'll need to file those as well as part of your W-2 creation process.
All right, let's move on to navigating 1099s and 1095Cs.
Yeah, so this was super great information. There are so many different kinds of 1099s that are available to file. And we really are excited to talk to you about how you can make the most of Greenshades to facilitate that filing.
Yeah, so some of the common ones that we see here at Greenshades are the 1099 MISC. The MISC is really a catch-all for all of the income that doesn't get reported on a different 1099 type. You'll notice that NEC is also on this list, and I wrote that on here because last year, or a couple years ago, the NEC and MISC did split out to separate forms. The non-employee compensation used to be on the MISC form, but it's now separate again. And those are still required whenever you give non-employee compensation for over $600 to any particular individual, independent contractor, or freelancer. Another 1099 that we do see a lot of here at Greenshades is the DIV. And that's usually to report dividends and distributions from some type of investment income, like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's some really important deadlines that you just want to be aware of when you are thinking about your 1099s. So in general, 1099s, like W-2s, need to be provided to recipients by January 31st of 2024. If you're reporting certain payments, those paper copies are going to be, if you're reporting certain payments on the 1099 MISC specifically, the due date is a little bit farther out at February 15th, 2024. And then across the board, paper forms are going to be due by the end of February. And if you're e-filing, which a lot of us are e-filing this year due to changed requirements, that e-file copy is due by March 31st. We've only covered a couple types of 1099s, but there are a lot more. And I see about 15% of you said that you're going to be filing an additional type. So I thought we would take some time and walk through each of the types that Greenshades is able to support and talk about why you might need to file them or why you might be receiving them. So the first is the 1099B. This is officially called the form for broker and barter exchange transactions, which is a kind of confusing name. What this means is this is the 1099 that you'll receive as a result of transactions that go through a broker. This includes the sale of stock, but also if you are engaging in barter trade. So that's something, if you are exchanging goods with each other for value, then you would produce a 1099B. The 1099C is for the cancellation of debt. So if you have extended a loan to another person and then you decide to cancel that loan, you would need a 1099C to provide to them so that they can register that original loan amount as income rather than a paid back debt. We already talked about the 1099 div, but a lot of people who receive 1099 div also receive 1099 INT. This is something that you might receive from your bank or from your investment accounts, where if you are collecting interest of a significant amount, you would need to report that as income from interest. Then we're going to talk about 1099K. 1099K is a form that has been few and far between for most people who are issuing 1099s. But this year, there have been some exciting changes around 1099K and who's going to be obliged to receive one and who's going to be producing them. So historically, the 1099K has been exclusive to our payment card processors, our MasterCard, Visa, American Express, and Discover friends. But there have been recent changes to the applicability of the 1099K, lowering the quantity, so the threshold and volume of transaction that would cause someone to be issued this. It's also been extended in its interpretation to extend to payment app transactions. So you're thinking about businesses that are run through Venmo, as well as marketplace sellers. So Etsy, Poshmark, eBay, and StubHub are all new sources. So if you've been running an Etsy business or selling a lot of those great vintage finds on Poshmark, you might be receiving a 1099K this year. We've talked a little bit about the 1099 MISC and 1099 NEC. And then there's also just some additional types of 1099s that we can cover, including the PATR, which is for distributions from partnerships and co-ops. So perhaps you're a partner in a law firm or an insurance company, or even if you're a member of a co-op. For instance, some people who are partners of members of REI may receive this 1099. And then finally, thinking about the 1099-R, which is something that a lot of our older Americans are receiving. This is the 1099 that covers distributions from retirement benefits. So that includes pension plans, 401ks, and other retirement benefits. And then finally, the 1099-S, which is really relatively uncommon, but it is income from the sale or exchange of real estate futures. So if you are playing real life Monopoly, this is going to be an important 1099 for you.
All right. So if you're using Greenshades for 1099s this year, there's a couple different workflows depending on whether you're using Greenshades payroll or a non-Greenshades payroll system. If you're using Greenshades payroll, we will provide you with an Excel template for each of the 1099 types that you need to do. We'll help you import that into our year-end forms program so that you can move forward with your 1099 process. If you are a non-Greenshades payroll client, we do have a couple of workarounds for you. If you would like to use that Excel option, you certainly can. But we also have a couple of products that can help you sync that data directly from your accounting package, such as GP, into our year-end form system. And we do have a legacy program that's a product that some of our clients still use called Tax Filing Center on-premise. If that is installed on your system, you can also use that to either send information to year-end forms or to build your W-2 returns only. It does not create W-2 forms for your distributors or 1099 forms for your vendors.
And then we're going to get into everyone's latest and greatest favorite form, the 1095-C. This is a really important set of forms that covers information about the health insurance coverage you offer to your employees and helps you ensure that you're documenting your compliance with the Affordable Care Act. This form includes details about the coverage that was offered, the employee contributions to the coverage, as well as what months that coverage was offered. And so the deadline for Affordable Care Act 1095-C filing is a little bit later in the springtime, where recipients need to receive their forms by March 4th, and paper copies are due February 28th, with e-files being due on April 1st.
And if you have some other forms that you might need help with, Greenshades does support a wide variety of other forms. You'll notice here on the list we have the 1042-S, a few different types of 1098s, the W-2 both for Puerto Rico and Guam in addition to the federal US. We already mentioned the gambling form, and we also do a few Canadian forms here, such as the T4 and the T4A.
So now we're going to get into the shameless plug portion of the webinar, where we talk about the role of tax software and some of the capabilities that we have within Greenshades to support you in this time of year. And so the first thing we really want to talk about is the power of automation. Greenshades has more than 20 years of experience supporting tax filing. And so we've built a really intuitive and easy to utilize system that helps streamline your year-end form automation into one single process. We're able to collect information from across your data environment, bringing in data from your payroll system, your ERP system, as well as other systems, including HRIS. We can also provide you with notifications of those upcoming filing deadlines. We've gone through a couple here, but throughout the year, there's even more deadlines to be aware of. And we're also able to help you detect areas that may cause your forms and submissions to be rejected. So helping you to ensure that your data is high quality, accurate, and correct.
Another great benefit of technology is some built-in compliance checks. So one of the things we have here on this list is verifying Social Security numbers with the IRS. We'll find that a lot of people will get married throughout the course of the year and have a name change, but may not file it with all of the appropriate agencies, but their driver's license says one thing and their Social Security card says something different. That will provide a mismatch, so that's something you definitely want to get ahead of. We also provide TIN matching for 1099 forms. And we also like to flag for any type of missing fields that we think might be required on a form type that you're filing through us. And also any mismatched numbers. Hannah had mentioned earlier verifying your W-2 totals to the 941s that you filed throughout the year. That's a really great check to make sure that everything is matches across the board. But if you have the annual printout that you run for your year-end numbers, I would definitely recommend comparing that as well. It's a great chance to check for any mismatches and get that taken care of before you have to file a correction.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this a little bit already, but Greenshades software also has the ability to help you make this form distribution process really simple and easy. You don't have to mess around with buying special paper or spending a lot of time in front of a printer. So we're able to, if you would like to print and mail those forms to your employees, you're able to take advantage of our print and mail services. We'll take all the information you've already used to do your uploads and use that electronic consent as well. So we offer multiple options. You're able to either surface this information electronically through Green Employee, or you can have that print and mail, or you can do both, which a lot of our clients do choose to do. Using electronic consent and electronic distribution, you're also able to make that information available should your employee choose to use TurboTax, H&R Block, and they're able to pull that information in really easily and automatically with their own consent.
Starting in January, there is going to be a new requirement that if you file 10 or more forms cumulatively, that you are going to be required to file them electronically. That is a change from the past. It was previously 250 forms, and this is part of an ongoing effort to move towards modernization by the IRS and other agencies.
And finally, we'll talk a little bit about the importance of accuracy. I think we're all aware that it's really important to be accurate and complete in these moments, but the cost of inaccurate, incomplete, or late filings really adds up. Even if you're only 30 days late, you could be charged up to $60 per W-2 or per filing. And so you really do want to make sure that you stay on top of those deadlines and your submissions to ensure that things are being submitted on time and correctly.
And you'll see here we have some stats on timeliness in the way that it affects your employees. It does give them peace of mind to know that they have those forms in their hand, that they can get their taxes filed on time and won't be late. But as an added benefit for them, there is a penalty involved if your forms are not postmarked and mailed out in a timely manner. There can be repercussions to you as a business for not doing that. So this is yet another reason why both compliance in a technology standpoint and having some of that knowledge in your own hands is very important because it can save your company a lot of time and money.
Yeah, so Greenshades is able to help you by making this process really simple for your employees. We can make sure that your forms are delivered on time every year, that your employees are informed about those forms being available, which makes it really easy for them to file their 1040s. We're seeing more and more Americans every year file their 1040 earlier in the year so that they can get those refunds quickly. There's a lot of reasons why employees are doing this, but they always value, I know that I value this as an employee, getting that information as early in January as I can so that I'm able to do what I need to do and file my own taxes. And then, of course, we have a really convenient mobile-friendly employee portal that makes it really easy for employees who might not have a desktop computer to do everything they need to do from their phone.
All right, that's going to wrap up the majority of our webinar today. We hope you learned some things. We have a lot that we wanted you to take away from this. We do have a lot of compliance knowledge here at Greenshades, and we have a great product here that will help you get your W-2s and 1099s filed on time. We also try to help empower you and your employees to have everything at their fingertips whenever they need it, because sometimes office hours are not when somebody needs a form. And we would love to poll you for any questions, but Hannah, did you want to throw anything else in?
Just to review our last few key takeaways, today we were really focused on helping you to understand those year-end forms, what technology is available to help you, and hopefully help you avoid some of those compliance errors.
Well, that has been a great time answering questions. I want to thank Hannah and Alicia for walking us through this first of the year-end forms webinar series. We really appreciate that. And in case you are not aware, there are more webinars coming right around the corner. The next one up is October 26th, Navigating Year-End Form Changes. If you haven't registered for that, we recommend you do. So thank you for attending and enjoy the amazing rest of your day.